So, Mr. Jake,
Yes.
I understand you've come to me today for information on a certain unsavory group.
I have. I've been sent by top men, shall we say, to...
Top men.
Yes, top men. To learn more about this organization you speak of. I won't explain where these people are affiliated with. They're certainly not a part of the presidential cabinet, but they're indeed top men who wish to know more about the tales of this organization. If you'll indulge me.
Well, I know of many different organizations. Be more specific, boy.
Has something to do with clowns.
Ah, I see. I understand why you wish to keep the anonymity of your sources.
Yes, this could be very damaging to their political careers.
I see.
If they were politics, of course, but they're not.
Well, the history of clowns goes back millennia. What most people don't realize is that clowns, though we see them as these fringe characters only for a brief laugh, they're actually quite influential, very reflective of
Really?
society.
Do tell.
For example, in ancient China, the emperor who had the Great Wall built
Yes.
would have lost millions of more subjects had his court jester not convinced him not to have it painted, even though his lords, whatever they called them back then, wanted it to be painted.
It's quite the arduous task, I can't blame them.
Well, I guess the best way to start this is with a tale. Imagine, if you will, Paris, France, early 1900s.
Sounds filthy.
A mime is performing his poultry play in a square. The audience looks on, slightly entertained, mostly bored.
Understandable.
And behind a corner is a clown, watching him like a wolf watching a doe.
Sounds terrifying.
He sits on his trike, masturbating, waiting for the moment of climax, at which point he rides out, ching-ching. As soon as he reaches the mime, he utters his battle cry, "Ha!" and throws his jism in the mime's face and rides off into the sunset.
Which I assume that is the origin of the mime's white faces.
More on that later, my good.
You've intrigued me. Continue.
The audience would have seen this as a mere prank from one entertainer on another. However, there are thousands of years of symbolism behind this, which I will get to later. Here we see one of the rituals behind an organization which has had many names throughout the years, but is now formally known as the Arcane Society of Silliness.
It's very, very poetic, very scientific as well.
ASS for short.
It's a very fitting name.
Now, in this society, befitting the number of disciplines for comedy, there are different orders. Perhaps the biggest I will explain, the first of which, one of the more popular, the Fraternity of Figaro.
Ah, yes. I've heard tale of this Figaro.
Figaro was a very popular clown. Even Mozart did, I believe it was The Marriage of Figaro.
I had no idea.
It's in German, which I still don't understand. But whatever. Figaro was a very cynical, but yet moral character. He realized that you should always do the right thing, but people are shit.
That they are.
Now, this order, they expand upon that comedy and clowns are a reflection of society, that the same things that make us laugh are the same things that make us weep, as the character has said.
Very, very deep. I had no idea the clown mythology went this far.
No idea, my good boy. Now, practitioners in this fraternity are mostly satirists, and quite often they will, pardon my colloquialism, they will poke-evolve into jesters or news commentators on Comedy Central.
So there's a hierarchy within this order.
To some degree, yes. Now, there are, of course, two other houses that, much from the same time frame, but are in a feud with each other.
So warring houses battling for supremacy.
Very true. These are the House of Harlequin and the Castle of Piero. Now, these two names, Harlequin and Piero, are, of course, from La Commedia dell'arte. They were stock characters. Harlequin was the trickster hero. He always outsmarted his master, often smarter than his master. Never took anything seriously. He was the master of slapstick, as are the members of his house.
It's the way to live life.
He often made a deal with the devil for agility and magical powers that he used for jokes, because life is a joke.
Very true.
Whereas Piero, his rival in love mostly, was very somber. He was the butt of the joke.
How unfortunate.
Harlequin, always very bright, cheerful, dressed himself in diamonds and a mask, whereas Piero, very white, blanched, wore no mask.
No mask.
No, but white face paint.
Ah.
And this is where we see the miles. The House of Piero, the Castle of Piero, is always seen as the butt of every joke. Even though they have much accolade, they are the pussy bitches
I see.
of the society. And mimes are seen as the outcasts. It's another joke, a prank against the Pieros of the world.
They are I imagine they're the lower tier of the clown order.
Usually, yes. It's not to be confused with traditional pantomiming, but that's for another discussion. Harlequin, there's much to be said about his attire and his mask, and yet he was always the bright one. Whereas Piero, very whitewashed, wore no mask. As if to say that Piero is man within his own boundaries. Very sad, can do nothing, and Harlequin must make a deal with otherworldly forces to get a step ahead.
They must have been at odds constantly with one another.
As you've said, there's much history, a lot of symbolism here. Now, after them, there was, of course, the more modern clowns. Perhaps you've heard of Bozo.
Yes,
Bozo the clown.
the infamous clown.
There is the Brotherhood of Bozo, formerly known as the Brotherhood of Button, who is recognized as the first circus clown.
Interesting.
Now, this brotherhood is often ridiculed yet respected, because whereas the other orders, there's always a darkness to them, this brotherhood tries to bring joy, pure joy, mostly to children.
Perhaps the wrong demographic. Most children view clowns as very creepy, disturbing.
Quite true. But these clowns, they try to bring joy to children through television, through circuses, through the hospital clowns, clown care, I believe it was called. But there is a flip side to this. Because they try to be so good and wholesome, they are prone, the most prone, to a condition known as the Black Plague.
I was going to say, the infamous Black Plague.
Not that one. This is again another joke. The Black Plague, in reference to clowns, is an inversion of goodness, of humor, like Saturnalia,
Yes.
the old Greek festival. What was once good and wholesome becomes evil and wretched, seeking only to do pain. And this gives rise to what we know as the killer clown. Stephen King knew of this in It. He knows the secret.
I was about to ask, where would Pennywise the clown fall under this hierarchy?
He is the hero.
The hero?
Of these fallen clowns.
Very interesting. He's normally depicted as the villain of the story.
Very true, but it will be known, once a clown falls to the Black Plague, they are outcast.
Understandably
No longer
so.
allowed. Yet they continue on their own. They see Pennywise as their hero, yes. Now, perhaps the most accoladed house is the Junta of Jesters. And yes, they do mispronounce Junta on purpose, because it is an English house and fuck Spain.
Yes. Damn Spaniards.
They did not like Spaniards back then. Now, some say that the entire society evolved from the Junta of Jesters. That jesters, they are the upper echelon of clowns.
Really?
They require proficiency in all of the arts of foolery, tumbling, jokes, satire. They require everything.
What's the significance of their hats and like the bells, or does a bell signify that one is a more experienced jester compared to a jester that just has a normal cloth hat or perhaps wool hat?
Not necessarily. Every clown is different. They must document their face paint accordingly. No clown can have the same face paint or the same attire.
Naturally.
That is simply their identity.
Yes.
However, members of the Junta of Jesters use the bells accordingly. Not only does it make people laugh in court, but this allows them to sneak around when they take their bells off. Because not only do they influence those in court, but they are allowed to speak when no one else can, often in ridicule of their lord.
Genius.
They hear things no one is meant to hear. They are also sometimes trained to be assassins, because who blames the clown?
Exactly. No one would suspect the fool. It's genius.
There's much more to clown history, more than I can ever speak. But I will continue more. There are the gods that the clowns worship. There are the international disputes between different clown societies. There are the punishments of clowns.
Such as
Good
the
Lord.
ridicule of the first mime, as you explained in Paris.
That is a minor offense.
Ah, the minor.
There is an entire echelon of clown punishments,
Dear God.
which I will speak to you later. But that's enough for now. All the rest is another tale.
I thank you, my good sir.